Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am a person that loves reading. I've always enjoyed reading, even as a little kid. When I was little, I actually used to stay up late reading. Like after my mom would tuck me into bed, she would sometimes catch me reading with a flashlight underneath my covers just so that I wouldn't get caught. I've just always been a person who is obsessed with reading. I not only read physical books, but I also enjoy listening to audiobooks. Books are just a very important part of my life. Something that I didn't realize until I got older was that books are also essential for learning new things. Now, I don't spend too much time reading fiction books. I just don't feel like with the time that I have that I should be reading fiction books, if that makes sense. So instead I read nonfiction books, more so like motivational, inspirational books to get ideas about creativity and productivity and fitness. That's what I'm looking for when I'm reading books these days. And there are actually 5 books that I've read recently that have been just really essential as I am trying to grow as a person and trying to increase my productivity and advance in my career. And I just want to share those 5 books with you because they have completely changed my life. And if there are books that you have read or listened to that have been really inspirational to you, feel free to leave those in the comments. I would love to hear them. I would love to have more books in my reading list. And if you like this type of content, don't forget to hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you here. All right, let's jump into these books. So my first book that I just really enjoyed reading and has completely changed my life is reading Atomic Habits. This is a book by James Clear that is all about the small things that make a huge difference in our lives. The reason I even picked up this book is that I was looking for ways to increase my productivity with new habits, but I also wanted to remove some of the small habits that were decreasing my productivity and really just taking away from the progress that I was trying to make. I just couldn't imagine that there would be a book that would help me to take actionable steps to making changes. But that's exactly what this book does. This book is all about creating systems, not just goals. Now, he doesn't necessarily say that a person shouldn't have goals at all, but more so saying that systems are greater than individual to-dos or individual points. Systems are what help you to move forward with things collectively, starting with just the things that you already do that you're looking to build on. Atomic habits are those little steps that make a huge difference. The thing about when we're talking productivity, typically we're looking for those quick fixes. Whether they're weight loss, whether they are trying to make more money, we're looking for those quick things that can get it done today. But that's not what this book is about. It's about trying to take the things that you already do, building upon them, and building out your system and your team to make things happen for you. Not necessarily saying that they would happen faster, but they will definitely happen more efficiently. So book number 2 on my list of books that have completely changed my life is The Broke Millennial by Erin Lowry. This book is all about personal finance. Erin is a personal finance expert and has been teaching people like millennials all about how to get rid of debt and even talk about debt with your partner. The reason I chose this book is because I am on my own personal finance journey. I am looking to remove my debt. I am looking to make smarter decisions with my money. And I'm also looking to teach others about finance and how they can do it too. Now, this book I actually chose as an audiobook. I listened to it on my walks and it was pretty much a quick listen. The main takeaway I received from reading this book is that there are many different ways to tackle debt. However, it is really important to just be consistent with whatever method that you choose. I'm finding that for me, tackling debt with the highest amount of interest has helped me to be more consistent with just getting rid of my debt. Starting with the highest amount of interest, it made me feel like I was actually making a difference because I hate giving away money that I work so hard for. By tackling the greatest amount of interest, I am reducing the amount of money that I'm paying to banks or to credit card companies and am instead focusing on keeping the greatest amount of money in my pocket. One thing I have to add is that Erin tells a story a lot about her childhood in this book and how her dad was very influential in her own personal finance journey. And one story that she mentioned was how when she was very young and she had like a lemonade stand or some sort of like small stand where she was selling something, and I believe it was lemonade. And once her and her sister had made a certain amount of money, she showed it to her dad, just very excited about how much money she had made. And the first thing her dad did was take taxes from her money. I was like, how is this person going to tax a little child? But I realized that life lesson that he was trying to give her. Taxes are always gonna come out. Now, when you're an entrepreneur, you do pay your taxes on the back end, whether that's quarterly or annually, but you are going to have to pay taxes or Uncle Sam is gonna come for you. My mom actually does taxes, and she just always said that Uncle Sam is gonna get his money. Like, that is the funniest line, but it's so true. The government is always gonna get their portion of your money. However, it's just really important to know how to manage your money even after taxes are taken out. So book number 3 on my list of the 5 books that have completely changed my life is Cashing Out, Win the Wealth Game by Walking Away by Julian and Kirsten Saunders. You may be familiar with them from Rich and Regular here on YouTube, but their entire journey and their entire story about personal finance and getting out of debt has just been so inspirational to me as I am on my own personal finance journey. Listening to their story about their parents and how they influenced them, as well as just conversations that they had as a couple regarding money and things that they said to each other, it was just very enlightening for me to understand, especially as someone who is young in my marriage. We have already had finance conversations and we continue to have them, but just learning from other couples and how they have tackled their personal finance with debt and how they have worked together to achieve that is just very inspirational to me. Now, the reason I actually chose this book is because they are a couple who is trying to achieve FIRE. If you're not familiar with FIRE, it is a term that refers to financial independence, retire early. Now, there aren't a lot of Black people in this community, and seeing a couple who is doing it successfully through many different routes of income is just very exciting for me to see, because it definitely helps me to see that we can do it too. Now, my most memorable takeaway from this book is actually what they refer to as a 15-year career for their career journey. A lot of times when we're thinking about getting a job, we don't actually think about our exit strategy and what we want that to be. And for me, I'm already thinking about the end in mind. So I'm already thinking about when I will retire, and it's not gonna be 65. It's definitely gonna be earlier, so I have to plan accordingly. That means that my timeline for retirement and setting that money aside or investing it wisely is much shorter than the average person in America. And if I'm gonna do something different, then I have to think about things differently as well. Now, for me, even though I love my career, I'm not even sure if I wanna stay in it 15 years, especially working for someone else. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but at least I'll have my choices of whether or not I want to work for someone else. The greatest feeling that I want to have is working because I want to, not because I have to. And setting myself up for success now through FIRE will definitely help me to achieve that much quicker than I could have possibly have thought of before. Now, the 4th book that has completely changed my life is The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You by Lydia Fenet. Now, the reason I chose this book is because I was actually preparing for a work meeting last minute. I had been asked maybe a few days before I was supposed to travel to go to Atlanta for a work meeting, and it was a very important meeting to my company. I really enjoy working for my company, and I wanted to be prepared. It's so interesting how things work, where my boss was actually supposed to go to this meeting, but he wasn't able to go for another project, so I was tasked with the job. And I don't think of it as someone not thinking about me and me being like a secondary replacement. Instead, I thought of it as an opportunity for me to showcase my skills and be a major factor in an important business deal. Now, there are many takeaways that I had from this book. I loved Lydia's confidence, her humor. It was just very, very enjoyable of a listen, but I also enjoyed how authentic she was to herself. Now, one note she does say is that she was not always authentic to herself. She was saying that she actually pretended to be a different type of auctioneer because that is what she saw in front of her. But notice that that didn't actually work for the type of auctioneer that she was going to be for charity auctioneering. Now, this book taught me an entirely new world of even auctioneering as a career, which I never even knew was a thing. But learning how she became confident within herself by being herself and selling as herself was just an amazing thing to see. This book has inspired me to be myself and authentic in everything that I do, whether that's here on YouTube or in a work meeting. Now, this book has taught me how important it is to be authentic to myself while also showcasing my confidence, while also my knowledge of my field. And I'm so thankful that Lydia had shared this part of herself with us because it has been an inspiration to me ever since. Now, my last book on my list of the 5 books that have completely changed my life is The Things I Wish I Knew Before We Got Married by Gary Chapman. Now, if you may be thinking that you are familiar with that name, it is because he is also the author of The 5 Love Languages. The reason I chose this book is because I wanted to be realistic about marriage before I got married. And by reading Gary's story of him and his wife, it was very entertaining to learn about a couple who has been married over 50 years and how even they had problems, especially when they were first starting out. It is very common for people who are joining their lives in marriage, especially if they had never lived together before, are learning each other in completely new ways. And there are conversations that are important and just emotions and understandings that are important to have in order to have a successful marriage where people are feeling heard and understood in the marriage. Now, there are 2 main takeaways that I got from this book. The first one being how important it is to be understanding to your spouse. Listening not just to say what it is that you're going to say, but listening truly to understand the other person and their perspective is very important to have. A lot of times we are just listening to the other person just so that we can say what we need to say. And that's not the strongest way to have a relationship. By truly listening to the person to understand their perspective, it opens up the door for collaboration and teamwork in any type of relationship, not just marriage. Another takeaway I had from this book is how important it is to resolve disagreements without arguing. Hence why listening to each other is just so important. And the last takeaway I had was how important it is to talk about money with your spouse. And that kind of reads in very closely with the Broke Millennial and how she discussed debt with her spouse and the relationship dynamics that can come from that when one person has a lot more debt than the other, and how those emotions of guilt can kind of play into that. I just found that to be so insightful that no matter what stage and what generation you are, it's just really important to have that conversation. So those are the 5 books that have completely changed my life. I also have a video here where I share with you the 8 habits that have completely changed my life as well. And if you're looking to watch that video, then just click the video right here. Now, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this type of content, as well as subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.